This is How Curious from KGOU, exploring your questions about Oklahoma. I'm Claire Donnelly. I'm standing next to a park with tall grass and shrubs at Tinker Air Force Base with a woman named Miranda Veazey. She's holding up what looks like an enormous fork, a silver rod about 2 feet long with 6 prongs sticking out sideways. With her other hand, Veazey fiddles with knobs and presses buttons on a chunky black box.
There you go. I know.
So she's putting the frequency in, and now we'll start listening. She'll have to adjust the gain and the volume.
Veazey is a biology grad student, and that big black box connected to a giant fork, that's a radio. We're using it to search for horny toads.
So scientific name is Phrynosoma, which actually means toad-bodied, which is where they get their nickname, the horny toad or the horned frog.
Horny toads are actually lizards. Their official name is Texas horned lizard, and they used to be all over Oklahoma. KGOU listener Gabe Denton remembers his yard being covered with them when he was growing up in Choctaw. But now he hasn't seen one in decades. Denton asked How Curious, what happened? These lizards are usually small enough to fit in the palm of your hand.
When you think of a lizard, you might think of like an iguana or something that has the long, sleek body, where these guys have the big, round bellies.
Their backs are patterned with rings and spots, sometimes more orange and yellow, sometimes more tan or brown, making them really good at camouflage. And, unsurprisingly, they're covered in horns from head to toe, with rows of small spikes around their bellies, along their backs, and down their tails. The 2 main horns on their heads are actually part of their skull. They almost look like mini dinosaurs.
It's a really cute lizard, which is bizarre to say.
Cameron Seiler is Associate Curator of Amphibians and Reptiles at the Sam Noble, Oklahoma Museum of Natural History.
You have, this very chubby body. You have kind of a small head, but it's horned and looks spiky. It's a lizard that has evolved this unique external morphology that the spines aid in its protection because it's not the fastest lizard on the planet, and it's not the most aggressive lizard.
Texas horned lizards live in the south central United States, including much of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and New Mexico, and in parts of northern Mexico. They're active in warm weather and usually burrow underground from fall until around April. The species has declined dramatically over the years. It's listed as threatened in Texas. In Oklahoma, it's a species of greatest conservation need and a species of special concern. Biologists want to learn more about these lizards and help preserve them. A new project at the Oklahoma City Zoo is studying how to best raise lizards in human care so they'll survive when released into the wild. And Veazey, the biologist from before, and her fellow researcher Ray Moody are studying the ones that live on Tinker Air Force Base. They use a technology called radiotelemetry. Here's how it works. First, they attach a tiny radio transmitter around the lizard's neck.
The little backpack, and it has a little antenna, and it has a unique radio signal.
Each lizard has its own code or frequency.
For example, lizard number 892 might have a frequency of 105.86. And so you're able to type in 105.86 on your radio receiver, and it will pick up just that lizard.
Then they try to find the lizard. It's kind of like playing a game of hot and cold.
When the beep is the strongest on your receiver end, you know you're closer to the animal. When the beep gets a little weaker, you know you've gone farther away.
Veazey types in a specific lizard's code and waves the antenna around, searching for a signal.
Okay.
So she got a good signal this direction.
Yes.
Then, suddenly,
Oh my goodness.
Oh!
wait, a different lizard scurries right across our path. We squat in the grass to examine it.
That is a big one.
This is a big adult. We also have all of our toes. For genetic sampling, we also take a small toe clip from the lizards as well. and he has not had a toe clip at all. So this is the first time that this lizard has actually been caught by any of us biologists.
It's amazing.
So this
And
is a
we
new
cover
study
this area,
study
so
animal.
We blanket this area, and we
Yes.
we find new ones.
All the time. So today this little guy is going to become a part of the study. We're going to put a radio transmitter onto his back, and he'll start monitoring his movements throughout the vase. This is so
He is really big.
very exciting. Yeah,
The Tinker
very
Project has
interesting
tracked
that
more than 1,000 horned lizards since 2003. The population varies from year to year, but VZ estimates about 54 live on base right now. So, and I trust you don't name them or anything.
Just numbers. We the first few we tried to call Spike and Duke and stuff, but no.
Every
There's
once
too
in a
many.
while, I must admit, I'll have my favorite lizard of the season. Usually one that has something
unique
unique
thing,
to it. For example, I had one 2 years ago that had a club foot, and he was my favorite, and I called him Bob. But for the most part, it's numbered.
So back to listener Gabe Denton's question. Why is he seeing fewer horny toads, more Texas horned lizards? What happened to them? Well, there are fewer. The species has been declining. And Cameron Seiler at the Sam Noble Museum says there are two big threats to the reptile. First, ants. Texas horned lizards eat native ants, and native ant populations are decreasing. Seiler says that's partially due to invasive ant species from Central and South America, like fire ants.
In some cases, they're naturally spreading with climate change. And so we see the fire ant and some of these other ants spreading as a result of changing temperatures that are more ideal for their northern expansion, where it used to be too cold. Now we're seeing seasons warm enough, long enough for these ants to actually start migrating north.
Fire ants also attack and eat nests of horned lizard eggs. Seiler says humans are the other threat.
As we've developed our cities and towns and we're laying more cement and we're developing more habitat, we're actually taking away a lot of kind of native environments that are suitable for Texas horned lizards.
There are also anecdotes of people collecting and selling the lizards as pets in the past. That's now illegal in both Texas and Oklahoma. Back at Tinker, VC says she and Ray Moody have learned a lot about the species. For example, it needs a mix of terrain in its habitat. Some bare ground for basking in the sun, some shrubs and grass for cooling off or hiding from predators. Also, sometimes when it's threatened by a predator, the lizard will shoot a stream of blood, actual blood, out of its eyes.
So for the first time, we're actually getting to see what these lizards are doing on a day-to-day basis.
They say now they're hoping for statewide horned lizard studies. So you may not be seeing as many of these so-called horny toads, but biologists are trying to change that. That's it for this episode of How Curious. The show is a production of KGOU Radio. It's produced by me, Claire Donnelly, and this episode was edited by Caroline Halter. David Gray composed our theme music. You can hear previous How Curious episodes by subscribing to our podcast or by going to kgou.org. And you can send us your Oklahoma questions by emailing curious@kgou.org.